You guys already know the deal. Growing up, Spider-Man was my favorite superhero. Today, he is my favorite Marvel superhero. I've played just about every single Spider-Man game, I've seen all the movies, and let me tell you, after Spider-Man 2, there have been a lot of ups and downs with this character. But ever since Spider-Man was brought into the MCU, things have been looking up. I've enjoyed him in the MCU, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was phenomenal, and last year we got Marvel's Spider-Man from Insomniac, which is a fantastic game. It's a great time to be a Spider-Man fan, and now we have Spider-Man Far From Home. Today I'm sharing my thoughts on the movie, I'm keeping it spoiler-free, let's do this. The story takes place after the events of Endgame. There's been a lot of craziness in the life of young Peter Parker, and all he wants to do is enjoy his summer vacation like a normal teenager. That means taking a trip to Europe with his classmates, win MJ's heart, and absolutely no superhero business. Nick Fury, however, has other plans for him. A new enemy has risen, the Elementals who seek to destroy the Earth. Enter Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who is here to help fight the Elementals. Let's kick things off with the conflicts. We have the external, the Elementals, and the internal, Peter's emotional struggle to enjoy a normal life while having the responsibilities of being a superhero. We've seen this internal struggle many times in other superhero movies and even other Spider-Man movies, but it's always been a layer of the character I enjoy. What adds a bit of a unique twist this time is 1, Peter is very young, he's 16, and also 2, he's coping with the loss of a certain someone from one of the previous Marvel films. The fact he's so young and carries that weight of wanting to live up to that person's expectations makes his journey more interesting. That being said, the struggle of being a superhero and wanting that normal life in Homecoming and Far From Home hasn't moved me at all. How do these two films convey that struggle? Well, there's mostly just a lot of Peter watching his friends from afar. I think it was much more effective in the Raimi films, and hopefully one of the future Spider-Man films can do just as great of a job. I thought the villains were great. I loved the second half of this movie. The concept felt fresh compared to other superhero films and other Spider-Man films. This is the first Spider-Man film that is not set mostly in New York City. I love the Big Apple, but having this character in a different location is refreshing. Seeing different parts of Europe was fun in itself because I've never been, and it looks so beautiful. I saw this in a packed theater. Everyone sounded like they were having a great time. I laughed a bunch throughout the movie. I thought the humor was great. In comparison to the other Spider-Man movies, we've never had such a comedic approach to Peter's love life. The action in the first half of this movie is entertaining enough. At this point, it does feel a bit been there, done that, but the second half of this movie was so awesome, I was not expecting that. I loved the visuals and the action scenes in the second half. I loved one of the final fight scenes specifically. There are many things I really enjoyed about this movie, but it's those scenes in the second half that make me want to rewatch it the most. When it comes to the MCU's Spider-Man, I love the idea of going on this journey with a younger Peter Parker and seeing how he evolves as a hero and as a person with age. If you hated Tom Holland's Spider-Man in previous films, I don't think Far From Home is going to change your mind because it is more of the same. As for me, I liked his take before and I like this character even more now. Just like before, Jacob is awesome, very funny, very likable, adds a great presence to the screen. Zendaya as MJ, very different than the traditional MJ many are used to. I went in with hardly any expectations. I didn't love her in Homecoming. I still wasn't sold on the character. I would describe her character as smart, blunt, sarcastic, a bit edgy, but also very awkward. As the film goes on, this character opens up bit by bit, and by the time the credits were rolling, I was surprised by how much I liked this MJ. Yeah, I'm officially a fan. I think her and Tom Holland work great together, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Another big change in the MCU is this Aunt May, and this is another one who, after Homecoming, I still wasn't a huge fan of. And like MJ, Far From Home sold me on her. She adds so much humor and such fun. In general, I'm a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he's a fantastic actor. I do think this is a pretty easy role for him, but just watching him perform made his character more enjoyable. Once again, Marvel casts these actors that are enjoyable to watch, like Michael B. Jordan, Michael Keaton, and now Gyllenhaal. I really liked what this movie did with Mysterio, and I think fellow fans of the character are going to like him as well. This film takes place after Endgame. If you don't want Endgame spoiled for you, then you need to see that first. That being said, do I think you can enjoy Far From Home without seeing Endgame? Absolutely. Something that makes more sense after watching Far From Home is when making the movie, the writers were never allowed to see Endgame's script. They were only given the main gist of its story. If I was one of the writers, I would find that so frustrating. But yeah, it shows in how Endgame's after effects are handled in this movie. The new world specifically feels almost entirely the same. I do think it could have been handled better, and yeah, there are some plot holes you can pinpoint when relating this to Endgame, but that was all just an afterthought. While I was watching the movie, I was just having fun, and sometimes it's nice to enjoy these movies as their own things. Like Homecoming and most movies in the MCU, I found the soundtrack very forgettable. I do like it more than Homecoming's, and it's good enough, but that's it. Something that stops this movie from being greater in my eyes is I never felt an emotional tug. It's almost entirely one tone, just fun and only fun all the time. That's not to say there aren't some sad moments. There are, characters are sad, but I'm watching and feeling nothing. Yet another superhero film that plays it very safe, almost afraid to step too far away from fun. I get it, Far From Home is like last year's Ant-Man and the Wasp. These two films follow some very intense Marvel films, and so they have to be the fun movies. I'm not saying I want my Spider-Man films to be Manchester by the Sea, but I do hope the future films have more layers and don't follow the same formula we see all the time. My personal favorite superhero films are more than just fun. Lastly, the fact that Far From Home is all about fun, nothing ever feels at stake. I was just watching and going through the motions. Now, there are a couple of scenes after the credits. One of them is definitely worth sticking around for. It is awesome. First, I gave a mini cheer, and then bam, shocking moment. I can't wait for the next film. I hope it's not too far away. Last thing, was the movie enjoyable? Was it a good time? Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going to see it again in theaters. It's time for the conclusion. Overall, Spider-Man Far From Home was very fun, and I wasn't expecting it to be so good. I enjoyed this movie more than Homecoming, and hopefully we don't have to wait too long for the next one. I definitely say this movie's worth watching if you're looking for a fun movie and if you're a fan of superhero films. But those are just my thoughts. Now it's time to share yours. If you have seen Spider-Man Far From Home, let me know what you think. While you're at it, what's your favorite Spider-Man movie? Let me know. Mine is still Spider-Man 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you very much for watching.